just gone over how to use the D-trimmer and how it cuts a nice clean seam edge on a piece of vinyl flooring. Now we're moving into linoleum. We all want to accomplish the same thing. We want to trim the factory edge, which is also referred to as a salvage edge, and end up with a nice clean seam edge that we can use to underscribe later. So if we use a D-trimmer on linoleum, as we try to pull it, you can just feel it kind of fighting as it goes through. Very difficult, doesn't cut very clean, ends up wanting to walk off the edge. You can see it gets a jagged, uneven appearance. So, if we think back to when we learned about how linoleum is manufactured, we found out that it is better to cut in two passes. You want to do a scoring cut and then followed by a hook blade cut. So what they came up with was the 4-bow trimmer. There's different types of these kind of trimmers. This was particularly the 4-bow trimmer. What it is, it's in 2 inline blades. You have a scoring blade and a hook blade in the back. What I want to show you is that the parts of this trimmer, how to change the blades, how to make the height adjustments, and some of the other characteristics of the cutter. And I'm also going to show you how to use the cutter properly to get the seam edge that we're looking for. As far as the parts of the trimmer, we have the bottom plate. One thing to know about the bottom plate is that there's this ridge along the one side here. What that does, it tilts the trimmer as you're pushing it along the ground, tilts the trimmer just slightly to create a back bevel cut on the edge you're keeping on the linoleum. The next part is the body. This actually houses the blades, and there's the housing itself. The housing just kind of sits over everything, holds stuff in place. So to take the 4-bow trimmer apart, there's a thumb screw on top. You just back that off. Set that aside. The housing comes off. Once you have the housing off, you have these spacers. These spacers are for adjusting how deeply the trimmer cuts into the linoleum itself. There is no set distance of how far you have to come into. You just need to go and get into good material. You don't want to leave any like delamination. If there is shipping damage, you want to make sure you come in far enough that you have decent material. So by using these spacers, that allows you to take off enough to get in, but not too much. So those are the spacers. One thing, they do send you different widths of these. When you get your trimmer, what they say to do is put this little bend in it. That helps to kind of keep them slide in there kind of snug so they don't just slip out real easily. So that's the spacer. As far as replacing your blades, real simply, you want to make sure you have nice sharp blades in there. You're going to get a better seam the sharper your blades are. Back these screws off. There's a series of pins on the body there that hold this plate in place. They also hold the blades in place. Now it looks like there's a bunch of pins there that you may not need, but what that's for is that this trimmer can be set up for both left-handed and right-handed users. You see you have your utility blade. This is a specific blade that you need that has these holes in it for setting on these pins. That holds the utility blade in, and then same thing with the hook blade. You want to make sure you have these hook blades with these holes in there so they sit right in the trimmer. The pins on the body kind of hold the blades at the correct angle and then also at the correct depth. You can get 2 uses out of each blade. It works both ends. It can be flipped over both left or right-handed. Slide your plate back on. You'll feel it kind of set onto those pins. Tighten your screws up. One of the last things I want to show you is that linoleum is made in several different thicknesses. So for each different thicknesses, and they're quite drastic from 2 to 5 millimeter, you don't want a lot of gap in here because you can get like a roll as you're trying to push your trimmer down. So you want to adjust the height. The way you adjust the height is real simply, you loosen these screws back here. That way you can slide the body up and down in relation to the bottom plate, and that'll allow you to adjust for your thickness of the material you happen to be using. So plates back on, blades are in place, my height is where I want it to be. Take my spacer, slide that in front there, you'll feel it kind of lock in. Some people will keep their spacers out on the outside of the housing when they drop this down. I like to put mine on the inside just so that way it doesn't slip out very easily and get lost. So slide my spacer in, take your housing, slide it over, take your thumb screw, go ahead and lock that down. What we're looking for is to create a nice straight seam edge with that slight back bevel that's created by the ridge on the bottom plate and also want to make sure we get far enough into good material. So we set up our 4-bow trimmer to do that. So I'm going to show you how to go ahead and run this down the edge of your roll of linoleum. What I like to do is clip the edge on there. You kind of let it slide into on top of the bottom plate, but beneath the body. Before you go taking off with this thing, what you want to do, because if you just start running with it, if you have older or brittle material, is that if your hand's way up here and this starts going, this can fold and you can snap the material. So what I like to do is when I start, place my hand down here, get it rolling, and that way when it starts moving, you're holding that nice and flat as it takes off. So then you can just shoot down your seam. Before you get to the end of the seam, you want to be careful because there's nothing really guiding the front of the trimmer at that point. So as you come off the end of the sheet, you want to make sure you keep the trimmer nice and straight as it comes off that end. So push it out nice and straight off the end. As you can see, you have a nice, straight, clean seam edge ready for installation. The final installations of when you're creating these seams for linoleum, they're going to be underscribed. So you only need to trim one edge. That way when this edge drops into the adhesive, you get your nice clean seam edge that you cut. You drop your second sheet over, you're going to underscribe and cut to this nice straight edge. That's why you want to have that back bevel. That's why you want this to be nice and straight, because this is all part of the final installation. So you only need to trim one side of your sheet. Other thing, I also like to make sure that you protect that edge, because you don't want that to get all mangled up before it's installed. Otherwise, that's going to be in the final product. If I was the guy cutting up the sheets and I'm sending them off to have other installers put them in, I always like to put a piece of masking tape up here, write the room number, the size of the sheet, and which edge has been trimmed. That way it helps the guy who's installing to figure out how he wants to lay the room out. When he folds the sheet back, that he has it so this edge will go in first. So you would put this on laying first, pull your sheet over, and then when you pull that one back, this would come second. You would glue up, this would drop into the adhesive first, and then you have this edge to underscribe too. So, pretty easy to use the 4-bow trimmer. Like I said, it's a series of inline blades. You have one scoring blade, one hook blade. You can see it creates a nice straight seam. Remember, the parts of the trimmer are the bottom plate, which has that ridge. They put that slight back bevel on it. The body, which holds the blades, and then the housing, which kind of holds everything all together. So, then get it on there. Remember, keep your hand down on this front end. Nice, straight, consistent pressure, and then keep it straight as you come off the end of it. So, Joey, what's the little ridge on the bottom of the bottom plate for? That's right. It lifts the trimmer slightly, creates a slight angle, creates a slight back bevel for your finished seam edge. What's the seaming method that we're going to use once we get done? This is all placed in the adhesive. What's the seaming method of why we only need to prepare one of these seam edges? That's right, underscribing. So we'll be underscribing these seams. As far as when I'm setting up my 4-bow trimmer and I'm putting in my spacers, how far do I need to get into the material for each of these seams that I'm going to be cutting? Right. As long as I'm into good material, that's all that matters. So you can go in a 1/4 inch, or you can go in 1 1/8 inches. You could do multiple passes if you have to get into good material. Whatever it takes to get into good material. So, okay, what I'm going to have you guys do, each of you guys are going to go back to your mock-up. I'm going to give you a 4-bow trimmer. I want you to disassemble it, show me how the blades get changed out, how to adjust the height to the particular linoleum that you're using, and then go ahead and practice a couple times, but then when you're all said and done, I want you to show me a seam-ready edge that I can inspect and give you a grade on that. Alright? Okay, let's go to it.